Thank you. Lisa Cunha's on that story in Denver, and Allison has more on this.
We do need to talk more about this. Let's debate it. Let's bring in Bryan Claypool and David Wall, both defense attorneys. Bryan, let me start with you. These are 12 biological fathers who are suing Utah because their babies were put up for adoption without their knowledge or consent. How can that be legal?
Well, Allison, let's be clear. I've looked at the law. It applies to fathers who are unmarried. It doesn't apply to married fathers. So what the state of Utah is doing is they're essentially saying, we want to weigh what's in the best interest of the child in terms of safety, financial security, and moral integrity of the home versus a father who's not married to the mother of the child.
But hold on, how can there be any moral integrity when the father isn't even told that the baby's being put up for adoption?
Because there's civil rights that also go to a child. Who is looking out for an unborn child? I mean, how many phone calls do I get as a child advocate from parents, from mothers saying, oh my God, I've got a deadbeat dad. We didn't get married. I can't find the father anywhere. There is an epidemic, Allison.
Yes, there is an epidemic. Hold on, Bryan. There is an epidemic, but these are 300 dads. By the way, these dozen represent 300 others. They desperately want to be involved in their children's lives. David, I want to bring you in. Basically, Utah is saying that dads are so inconsequential, we don't even need to tell them that their biological babies are being put up for adoption.
This is nothing less than state-sponsored kidnapping and child abuse. It's medieval, it's unconscionable, and to deprive a child of the right to be raised by the man who brought the child into the world, and to deprive the father not just of consent to the adoption, but mere notice of the adoption. Allison, it's not just a violation of civil rights as is alleged in this lawsuit. It borders on criminal.
Bryan,
it's a violation of equal protection of the Constitution, and if it goes to the U.S. Supreme Court, it'll be thrown out like that.
Bryan, how do you respond?
Yeah. Well, you know, I've looked at the law, and that the intent of the law is not to violate the civil rights of fathers. The intent of the law is to motivate men across the country to not go to Utah, not have unprotected sex with a woman that you're not married to.
Bryan.
And you know something, Allison, when I was reading through this law, I don't know if you're a musical fan at all, but it reminded me of that song by Pat Monahan from Train, the song Drive By. The purpose of that song, Drive By, is just what we're talking about here. You don't want to do hit and run with a woman and then fathers disappear.
Bryan?
And another thing is, what about...
But hold on, Bryan. Some of these moms are being dishonest and moving to Utah so they can put the babies up for adoption. One of the fathers was in the military. While he was serving, the mother moved to Utah and told him the baby died.
Allison, this is criminal deception.
Well,
Allison, based on this logic, based on Bryan's logic, if a father and mother are married and then split up when the child is a year old, can the mother then take the child and get it adopted because they're no longer married? Is that, according to the rationale of Utah's statute, acceptable? Of course it isn't acceptable. This is criminal
Bryan, 10 seconds. Bryan, 10 seconds.
Parenting is not a recreational activity, and unfortunately in this country we have an epidemic.
Bryan, a constitutional right.
Yeah. Guys, we'll have you back to debate this further. Utah is going to have to figure out a solution to this. Bryan Claypool, David Wall, thanks so much for the debate.
Thanks, Allison.
Happy Valentine's Day, by the way.
Thank you, gentlemen. To you.